Hello there. It's great to have you join us on the news on NTA International. I'm Naja'atu Tijani, and these are the headlines. Vice President Osinbajo attends ECOWAS extraordinary meeting in Ghana. Malian crisis tops agenda. Federal government meets labor unions to deliberate on recent hike in PMS and electricity tariff. As the world marks International Day of Democracy, correspondent takes a look at the form of government in Nigeria. And now the news in detail. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo this Tuesday has attended an extraordinary summit of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, on the situation in Mali. The Vice President, who represented President Muhammadu Buhari at the summit, joined other leaders in the sub-region to discuss the political crisis in Mali and the security situation in the sub-region at large. The Accra ECOWAS Extraordinary Meeting forms part of several efforts by leaders in the sub-region to resolve Mali's political crisis. While in Accra, the Vice President also met with representatives of the Nigerian community in Ghana to discuss issues bordering on their well-being in the West African country. The Vice President, accompanied by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada. Vice President Osinbajo is expected back in Abuja today at the end of his engagements in Ghana. Now, as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari, the Ministers of Labour, Works, Petroleum and Power are meeting with the organized labour sector to dialogue and resolve all matters relating to the recent increase in electricity tariff and the price of petrol. The meeting, which is taking place at the banquet hall of the State House, is for the government representatives to engage labour on government finances and show them the books. Last week, Friday, the President ordered the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, to schedule a date with the trade unions to intimate them with the programs of government to forestall industrial crisis. Now, it's one of the youngest international days proclaimed by the United Nations, but it remains one of the oldest institutions. The International Day of Democracy, launched by the UN on the 15th September 2007. And as Nigeria joins other countries to mark this day, what are some of the impediments to the practice of democracy in a COVID-19 era? Mayor Ogidi reports.
Athens' best gift to the world, loved by many in principle, distorted in practice by few. This is the paradox of contemporary democracy in many countries. Respect for human rights, holding of periodic elections, value for freedom and inclusivity in the areas of affordable health, education and justice are four critical points in the practice of democracy. But when the four cardinal points are in danger, the center trembles. So, 15th of September every year reviews the state of democracy across the world.
On this International Day of Democracy, let us seize the pivotal moment to build a more equal, inclusive and sustainable world with full respect for human rights.
Nigeria, a country daring to get it right with democracy, bearing in mind it is a process and not a project.
What democracy essentially guarantees is freedom. And one thing I know that we have in Nigeria is freedom. You can actually say what you want to say. I call on all Nigerians to be vigilant and to be actively involved in peppering the cracks that we see in the democratic institutions and machinery.
For the United Nations, democracy needs all the protection, especially in a COVID-19 era, with all the legal arsenals in the state's disposal to protect the rights of the most vulnerable.
As the world confronts COVID-19, democracy is crucial in ensuring the free flow of information, participation in decision-making and accountability for the response to the pandemic. Yet, since the beginning of the crisis, We have seen the emergency used in a range of countries to restrict democratic processes and civic space. This is especially dangerous in places where democracy's roots are shallow and institutional checks and balances are weak. Today, it is clear that governments must do more to listen to people demanding change, open new channels for dialogue, and respect freedom of peaceful assembly.
In its true practice, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. Mayor Ogede, NTA News.
Now we have an expert in the studio to speak further on Democracy Day in the person of Dr. Adoye Omale, a lecturer at Bayes University and former chairman of Badibo Local Government Area, Benue State. Sir, you're welcome to the NTA International studio.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
The day reminds Nigerians about democratic governance in the country. How far is this form of government?
Well, as we all know, democracy is about representative governance. Demos in the Greek word means people, and kratias means rule. So democracy is rule of the people. And Nigeria, after we are in the Fourth Republic, after democratic practice in the last 20 years, we will say with all confidence that we are moving forward democratically.
Now, from that special report, can we say that Nigeria has the basic democratic institutions to carry along the electorate in participating in governance as well as the electioneering processes?
Yes, in terms of having institutions, yes, we have a parliament in place, the legislature in place, we have the courts, we have the presidency and the executive at all levels. Yes, so they are there. But the question is, are they very effective? Are we practicing a democracy where there is food on the table of the average man or woman? Has our democracy matured to the level where we have been able to solve our challenges? And the answer to that is a straight no. Our democracy has not translated to the type of socio-economic development that we desire as a country. Yes, we have the democratic institutions in place. There have been periodic elections. I think from 1999 to date, we have had about almost 4 to 5 elections. These elections, depending on who is analyzing them, those elections, a lot of people have said, are not democratic in the actual fact because of the level of violence, the level of manipulations, the level of shenanigans. Even in party primaries, our political parties are not as matured as they should be. And people are not participating, especially women and youths, are not participating in the process the way they should practice it. And that is the bane of our democracy as it is today. But I will say with all confidence that yes, our democracy has a lot of challenges, but we are moving on.
Now, in addition to some of these hindrances you've mentioned, the 2020 International Day of Democracy is being marked when the world is grappling with COVID-19. Now, the fact that e-governance is the norm, how far will this take democracy in Nigeria?
Yes, the United Nations has done very well by proclaiming World Democracy Day so as to create awareness on democracy worldwide. I think that's a very good initiative, especially we witnessed recent challenges, coup d'etat in Mali, and of course the overthrow of the Muslim Brotherhood-led government of President Morsi in Egypt. And so the threat to democracy is potent, especially in Africa and in the developing world, where poverty is still ravaging. A democracy that do not put food on the table of the ordinary people is a very weak democracy. And that is why the international community, the United Nations, development partners are all worried about enhancing, strengthening the democracy, especially in countries like Nigeria and other African countries where democracy is being manipulated by a lot of forces, anti-democratic forces that exist. On the issue of e-democracy or e-governance, yes, I would say that our governance institutions and structures are still weak. despite all attempts by government to fight corruption, to also reform the electoral system, these reforms have not really sunk into our democratic system, especially electronic voting. It has not been able to take root, especially in Nigeria. We have card readers that malfunctions. We have the voters register that are still not very tidy. And we still have electoral empires that a lot of people have criticized. So if we must cope with the digital democratic system, then we also have to carry out a wholesale reform of our electoral system.
And on that note, Dr. Omale, I want to thank you again for joining us in the studio to talk more about the Democracy Day.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Dr. Omale is a lecturer at Bayes University and former chairman of Badipo Local Government Area, Benue State. And still on election matters, candidates in the Edo State governorship election at the signing of a peace accord in Benin, powered by the National Peace Committee, have affirmed their commitment to having a safe, free and credible election on Saturday. Ogochukwu Kaona has details.
It was not an event for long speeches as they went straight to business after a quote from the charge of the Oba of Benin to political actors in the state was read. 6 out of the 14 candidates in the race present, accompanied by their party chairmen, appended their signatures affirming their commitment to a peaceful election.
I will live by the letter and spirit of the accord that has just been signed.
We reaffirm to our commitment to what has been signed and to assure Nigerians, and particularly our people in Edo State, that we will talk to all our supporters, we will conduct ourselves peacefully.
We do not always go out killing ourselves because of election. And I'm sure this will not be a different thing.
We are here to ensure a hitch-free, free, fair, credible, and safe election again.
The signing of the peace accord should not be seen as a mere ceremony. For me as a priest, I liken it to an exchange of vows.
We are completely acceptable to the peace accord and will be part of those who are to ensure it is driven to the objective for which it was first engaged.
The National Peace Committee has demonstrated that so much can be achieved in nation building by the force of moral rather than statutory authority.
For the chairman, National Peace Committee, peaceful election on Saturday is a task that must be achieved.
We, as a people, should aspire to see Nigeria where people feel safe to come out of their homes to cast their vote without any fear and need for police deployment.
In Benin, Ogochukwu Kaona.
And to judicial matters now. A total of 1,785 new wigs have been called to the Nigerian Bar, having successfully passed the January 2020 Bar final examination. Omenka Marachukwu reports that 5 lawyers made first class at a ceremony held at the Eagle Square by the Body of Benchers in Abuja.
The new wigs have passed through the sounds and rigorous training at the Nigerian Law School, were cited to have met the requirements of court to Nigerian Bar.
By virtue of the fact that I emerged as the best graduate student at the Nigerian Law School, I hope to contribute my quota to issues that are arising within the Nigerian Bar Association.
I feel so happy and I'm very, very excited. The anticipated day is now here.
Chairman Body of Benchers, OCJ Okocha, admonished the new lawyers to uphold the hallmark of legal profession, which are honesty and integrity.
And always remembering that upholding the rule of law is the motto of the Nigerian Bar Association, and we are sworn to do justice to all manner of persons without fear of favor, affection, or ill will.
We have to be committed. We
you have to be burning midnight oil. So by the time you acquire the necessary experience, the dividend will start flowing.
The Director General of Nigerian Law School, Professor Isahayatu Chiroma, said the candidates were groomed in the best ethics of the legal profession.
Profession is not to make money, but to serve. To serve also with dignity, respect and honor.
They have to broaden their horizon because the world is changing rapidly.
The ceremony was held in compliance with COVID-19 regulations and safety protocols. In Abuja, Umenka Marachuku, NTA News.
And still on the judiciary, after about 5 months break due to COVID-19, the National Judicial Institute, the Apex Training Institute, or the Nigerian Judiciary has recommenced its training program. Femi Okeo monitored the virtual training, which was declared open by the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
The National Judicial Institute provides for the Nigerian judiciary continuing education both for the judicial officers and their support staff. In any normal training, the Justice Obaseki Hall is always full to its capacity. But today, even though the institute has thrown its door open for training to commence again, participants have to attend from their various locations. Administrator of the Institute, Justice Rosalind Bozimo, says even though the Institute has space enough to accommodate hundreds of participants with the observance of social distancing, avoiding gatherings altogether is a better option. This training is for legal and research officers to judges across the country, a crop of judicial staff which the Chief Justice of Nigeria says are valuable organs to good judgment in the nation's justice system.
You must at all times exhibit positive traits. As legal assistants, your actions or inactions, speed of dispensation of justice or delaying it, as the case may be.
The theme of the workshop is repositioning the judicial researcher to function in the 21st century. In Abuja, Femi Okewo, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. There will be more.
Network.
Thanks for staying with NTA International. Now, global coronavirus cases close to 30 million as South Korea to secure early supply of coronavirus vaccines for 60% of its population. Details with Uche Ugochukwu.
The coronavirus in Africa tracker shows there are 220,489 active cases on the continent, out of the 1,360,149 confirmed cases. Nigeria accounts for 10,968 active infections from its 56,388 total confirmed cases. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control recorded 132 new cases and 1 death on Monday. Elsewhere, the southwestern Chinese city of Rili has been locked down with all 200,000 residents to be tested for COVID-19 after 2 Myanmar nationals were diagnosed with the virus. Similarly, more than 17 Indian lawmakers who were screened ahead of the reopening of parliament after 6 months recess have tested positive for the coronavirus. However, India reported its lowest daily jump in new infections in a week, with 83,809 cases in the past 24 hours. The good news, however, is that Australia recorded its first day without a COVID-19 death in 2 months, as states began to lift restrictions amid growing confidence that a second wave of infections have been contained. The global tally from Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center as at 6 p.m. local time is 29,527,468. From this figure, 934,267 patients lost their lives to the virus. In another news, South Korean Prime Minister told a cabinet meeting that the country will secure early supply of coronavirus vaccines from international organizations and overseas drug makers for 60% of its population. And a report by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation says the pandemic has pushed global development back by more than 20 years, as millions of people have been exposed to the threats of more poverty, inequality, and diseases. That's it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Thank you, Uche. And now, owing to the severity of floods in Kebbi State, the state government has taken measures to alleviate the suffering of people in some communities, including patients and prisoners who were rescued from the submerged General Hospital and Correctional Facility in Bagudu local government area. Details with Musa Baba Aliu.
This 9-year-old Rukaya Muhammadu has sickle cell anemia and in dire need of urgent medical attention. Her dilemma at present and that of her father is how to access a health facility, as the available hospitals have been situationally closed due to flooding. There is a staff nurse up there. I used a canoe to reach his house. Unfortunately, his house too is submerged. I don't know where he is, her father says.
The hospital have been shut down since about 3 or 4 days ago, and we have now transferred them to the district head of Bagudo. They are now operating there.
The flood has taken over Rukaya's community located in Bagudo local government area of Kebbi State. At the local government headquarters, inmates at this correctional facility were evacuated to Benin Kebbi. Those whose houses have been taken over by the flood are at present taking refuge at available primary schools.
For somebody that will have a family hall of maybe 30 to 40 dependents and to be displaced in a couple of minutes without being prepared, without giving a notice, without being, informed, definitely is devastating.
Governor Abubakar Bagudu Atiku visited the local government and directed the State Emergency Management Agency to provide palliative to the people. Respite has also come the way of Rukaya, as she has been taken to the state capital for medical attention. From Bagudu, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has reaffirmed the determination of government to improve Nigeria's economic fortunes despite the present global challenges caused by COVID-19. Chimobi Walter Naji reports from the annual conference on banking and finance in Abuja.
Issues regarding poverty reduction, population explosion, ensuring sector-by-sector growth, and a sustainable financial mechanism for micro, small, and medium enterprises, among others, are factors that led to the theme of this year's annual Banking and Finance Conference, organized by the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria.
I wish to re-emphasize that as bankers and fund managers, you are required to partner with government in its determined efforts to diversify the economy and reposition the country for a sustainable future. Putting the economy on the path of sustainable growth and development has been a priority of this administration.
The conference offers an opportunity for a think tank among stakeholders in finding solutions to banking challenges in Nigeria as it moves towards sustainable growth.
And the CBN will do everything possible to ensure that our deposit money banks or participating financial institutions, they flow with us in making sure that we drive extensive agricultural growth and transformation of the Nigerian economy.
The sustainable growth is part of the SDG goals, and how do we make every Nigerian have a feel that in terms of our development, in terms of our living standard, in terms of financial inclusion, in terms of education.
With the country recording its highest inflation rate since October 2016 at 13.22%, this meeting, among other things, will sort ways to change the narrative. In Abuja, Chimobi Walter Naji, NTA News.
Next is